Hey, what's going on? Luke here, and the Cowboys have announced two new signings for the Halves for 2022, and that's Chad Townsend and Tom Dearden. Obviously, Chad Townsend coming from Cronulla Sharks, been there for a long time. Obviously, had a little stint at the Warriors, but for the most part, he's been Cronulla through and through. Won a premiership with them, been a fantastic player for them over the years. Then we have Tom Dearden on the other end of his career. You got Townsend, who's sort of finishing up his career, and Tom Dearden just starting his. A Cowboys fan growing up, apparently. There's photos of him with Jonathan Thurston wearing a Cowboys jersey, but he's come through the Broncos system, and the Broncos, he seemed to be the Broncos' future, and it's not really worked out. And he now will be linking up with the Cowboys. It was sort of talked about for a long time, but I didn't think it was really going to happen. Then all of a sudden it was announced. So Tom Dearden's going to the Cowboys, as is Chad Townsend, and then all of a sudden you got a new 2022 halves combination for the North Queensland Cowboys. Now, I think the halves is a place that the Cowboys have really struggled as of the last couple of years. You look back to their premiership run, not the premiership run, but the one where they made the grand final. Jonathan Thurston went down, Michael Morgan really stood up, then you had Tamari Martin there. Now, that was, to me, I was looking at that and I'm like, well, that's your long-term halves pairing, but it didn't really work out that way. Thurston obviously came back next year and didn't really play that great and ended up retiring. And for Michael Morgan, it was the start of his injuries. Tamari Martin ended up having to retire due to a brain injury. So then all of a sudden, the halves combination, you went from having Michael Morgan and Thurston, added Tamari Martin as a pretty solid backup. All of a sudden, all three of them were sort of either gone or busted. You add in Jay Clifford was another one who was highly touted. He's now on his way to Newcastle, and I don't know if that's going to be a good signing for the Knights, but it is what it is. He's moving from the Cowboys to the Knights, so there's been a lot of changeovers for the Cowboys halves, and a lot of it is to do with Michael Morgan and his injuries. Now, the last couple of years, I already touched on it. Been very injury plagued, and obviously he's had to retire due to injuries, but he's never really been there, and they've really missed him. They've really struggled. A lot of money was invested into Michael Morgan, and for good reason. He was fantastic. They pretty much won the premiership because of him. The play he made in 2015, where he did a little flick pass, he won them the game. All the talk is about Jonathan Thurston and how he kicked the field goal and such. Thurston had a terrible game. Michael Morgan was the one who stood up, and Michael Morgan was the one who came up with the match-winning play. Thurston sort of stood around and just threw the pass to Michael Morgan, and Michael Morgan did the rest. He was a guy who had speed, he had size, he just had every attribute you could want in a halves player. He was kind of similar to what Jack White is now. However, in my opinion, I think Michael Morgan's a better player overall. Obviously, Jack White's fantastic, and that just says it all. But we kind of forget how good Michael Morgan actually was. And I was really disappointed. I put him in my super coach at the start of the year. I thought we were going to be able to see Michael Morgan back at his best. However, injuries just got the better of him, and it's such a shame because he wasn't even 30 and he's had to retire. So, yeah, it's very disappointing, especially for someone who was so highly touted. He was the Australian halfback or 5'8" after 2017, and then since 2017 for the Cowboys, just in general, not only the halves, but they haven't made the 8 since then, and they've been missing it by quite some distance. So it just shows you how much they've really struggled. And like I said, a lot of it comes down to the fact that they went from having Thurston and Morgan to representative halves, and then all of a sudden Thurston's gone, Tamari Martin as a backup's gone, and then you've also got Michael Morgan, who they invested all their money in, signed for big money, and he went down injured pretty much straight away. And he never recovered, and he could never really string a few games together. And even when he did play, he always looked underdone too. So it was a very couple disappointing years for the Cowboys, but I think it's got to change now that they're going to bring in Chad Townsend and Tom Dearden. I don't think so. Honestly, I really don't think so. I don't know if this is a good sign. Look, Chad Townsend, I think he's great for the Sharks. I feel like he's one of those guys, kind of similar to Josh Reynolds for the Bulldogs. He's valuable to that side because he's a junior. He's Sharks through and through, but you take him out of the Sharks and chuck him in another side, I just don't think it works, and it's not valuable. And as much as I like Chad Townsend, I don't know if I would want my team signing them. And the Cowboys have gone out and done it. There was a lot of talk about them signing Adam Reynolds, and they've ended up with Chad Townsend. And not that he's a bad player by any means, but I just don't think he's a guy who's going to take your side from being, a bottom 8 side into the top 8. And that's exactly what the Cowboys are looking to do. They're a bottom 8 side. Chad Townsend is a perfect guy to come in and play second fiddle. I know he plays halfback, but he's the perfect guy when you've already got another gun half, like your Sean Johnson, Matt Mullen to a degree. But when he won the premiership, he had James Maloney there, and he's never really looked as good as what he did that year because James Maloney's not even there. Even when they won the premiership, in the lead up to it, they were hooking him in the last couple of games. They were bringing him off and chucking him on the bench. So he won the premiership, but they weren't exactly super confident with him. And I think had he not been a local junior, I feel like they would have punted him ages ago, just being honest. That's brutally honest there. But look, he signed for a good contract with them. It's his last contract. End of the day, he's fairly solid in defense. He's fairly solid in attack. He's not really outstanding in anything, but I mean, he's got the goal kicking now too, so he's got that up his arsenal. But yeah, he is a fairly solid player. He can steer them around the park. I just don't know if he's a guy you pay $800,000, because there's been some really fluctuating reports on how much he's actually signed for. They're saying a 4-year deal. Some of them have been $500,000, some have been as high as $800,000. So you'd assume probably somewhere in the middle. But look, even if you take away the money, you think he's on a fairly decent halfback sort of contract. Halfbacks are all on that sort of money, apart from like your 20-year-olds who are still in their reserve grade contract. But any half-decent player who's in the halves, they're going to be getting that sort of contract. And that's just going to be going up and up as the years go on. But look, I'll be interested to see how much Tom Dearden's on. I haven't actually seen it. I'm not even sure how long he's actually signed for. You'd think long-term, so you've got them in the halves for at least another couple of years. I guess the idea is that Chad Townsend's going to teach Tom Dearden a lot. However, I feel like Tom Dearden is not really a 5'8". I feel like he's more of a halfback. And then you got Chad Townsend, who is just a halfback through and through. So I don't know if this is going to be a combination that gels. Add in that they've also got Scott Drinkwater there. He's off contract, and he's actually been in some really, really good form. The Cowboys in general have been in some pretty good form the last couple of weeks. And at the start of the season, they were absolutely terrible, absolutely abysmal. And I was looking at them and going, what is wrong with the Cowboys? Todd Payton was supposed to come in and he was supposed to change this side, and it just wasn't happening. But all of a sudden, slowly, they've been getting better and better, and now they've been getting wins. And Todd Payton is starting to look a little bit more of a genius than a dud, because that's what it was at the start of the season. Jason Tamalalo hasn't even been playing too, so they haven't been relying on him. They just let go of Josh Maguire. So you have to assume their cap position is in a fairly decent spot. You add in Michael Morgan's gone. He had a lot of money in there. Josh Maguire would have been as well. If they can get rid of Valentine Holmes, that would be fantastic for them salary cap-wise, because they got a dude who's pretty much stuck on the wing or sort of being a second, third choice fullback, and he's on like $1 million a year. So I think that's a big problem for them. But once he's gone, who knows what's going to happen with the Cowboys. But yeah, just in terms of their halves pairing going forward, I don't know if I like this one. Individually, I don't mind both of the players, but as a combination, I don't know if this is going to work. And it is a big risky one. And maybe Chad Townsend, he's just there 1 or 2 seasons, and they're going to try and get rid of him, and Tom Dearden will be the number 7. I don't really know, but it is a big loss for the Broncos. It's going to be a big loss for the Sharks too. But I think the Sharks, they can cover it. They've got a lot of players off contract. They've got Sean Johnson off contract, Matt Moylan. I'm sure there's plenty of other guys. Lots of talk about Adam Reynolds actually going to him. But yeah, for the Broncos, this is just another one to add to the list of players that have left. Players that they earmarked as the future. I'm pretty sure there's even talk that they picked Dearden over Sam Walker. And we've seen how good Sam Walker's gone for the Broncos. So they really had high hopes for Tom Dearden, and he's pretty much said, stuff here's I'm going. So yeah, Broncos fans, I've already seen them blowing up, and I don't blame them, to be honest. They've invested in a lot of these youngsters, and a lot of the youngsters that they've kept around haven't done that great, and the ones that they've let go have seemed to go on and go to bigger and better things. So we'll see how they go and see how they bounce back. But for the Cowboys, it is a good step in the sense that they're going out and they're getting things done. They're not really waiting around and seeing what's happening. They looked at Chad Townsend and they said, yeah, we want his experience, bring him in. I suppose in a sense they do need some experience because Michael Morgan did have a lot of experience. Granville's at the back end of his career. Valentine Holmes is up in the air, like he's a fullback, he's a winger, where are you going to play him? So really, they don't have a lot of experience in the halves. And even Tom Dearden, he's coming over and he doesn't have much experience either. He's been in and out of first grade, and he's been at a shitty Broncos side. So I don't know how much he's going to bring to the table immediately. So at least with Townsend, he's going to be fairly decent. But just taking him out of that Shark system, especially going from the Shire, and he's got all these investments in his beer company and all that sort of stuff, and then moving to Townsville, I think that's going to be an interesting element, and I think that we don't consider a lot in terms of footy players having to move locations. Because you see them, like say if he had signed with the Bulldogs or something, it's just sort of moving to another Sydney side. But moving to a whole other state, that's got to be a big thing for him. You move your kids and all that sort of stuff. So we'll see if Chad Townsend has any regrets in a couple of years. But look, he's already been over to New Zealand. He apparently loved it there. He said he loved it there, so I'm sure he'll be fine. But look, Townsville's not for everybody. It's pretty hot up there. Conditions aren't that great in terms of if you're from the Shire. So we'll see how they go. But yeah, Tommy Dearden, Chad Townsend, it could be a really good halves combination, but there's just so much what if. Like, we don't really know, because Tom Dearden hasn't really shown a hell of a lot in first grade, because he hasn't really had many opportunities, and Townsend's always had really good players around him. So we'll see how he goes with Tamalalo and such around him. But in terms of the halves, in terms of the spine, doesn't really have a lot to work with. So be a big challenge for Chad Townsend, but that's probably why he signed there. Seemed like a guy who wants a bit of a challenge. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Leave in the comment section below, what are your thoughts of the new Cowboys pairing in 2022? Dearden and Townsend, do you think it will work? Do you think it'll be shit? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, while you're at it, go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Also, turn on the notification bell. It's pretty important in terms of you actually seeing the video. Just go ahead and do that. Just get a little notification on your phone and you click on the video, leave a first comment or just a comment in general. Do whatever you want to do. A like, that would be very much appreciated. So do all that sort of stuff. Give me a follow on social media. It's on the screen right now. It's Mr. Luke on YT for the most part. Just Mr. Luke for Facebook, but for everything else, it's Mr. Luke on YT. And stay tuned for more content on the channel. Plenty of stuff to talk about. The NRL is in full swing, so I've got plenty of stuff to talk about, like I said. So stay tuned for more content on the channel, and I'll see you next time. See yous.